Hey everyone, it's me, Kaylin. Welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new here, my name is Kaylin. I am a native New Yorker who has been living here in Namibia for about the last 14 years. And I am married to a Namibian. I first came here as a volunteer teacher. I met my husband, who's Namibian. We married. We have 2 kids, one on the way. The third one will be here in about 2 months. And we have 2 dogs. Today, I want to talk about how even after living here for 14 years, I refuse to participate in diaspora wars. For years, I have gotten comments, emails from people on my channel, on my website, African American in Africa, which chronicles not only my experience, but the experiences of other Black Americans who live on the continent. I get comments for a long time now disparaging other parts of the African diaspora, whether it's Black Americans making nasty comments about Africans, or Africans making nasty comments about Black Americans, or West Indians somehow getting caught up in the mix, or maybe people from South America. Like everybody, I get these comments. Now, I have chosen not to, I usually just delete them because I don't even like entertaining that sort of discourse on my channel. That's what I try my best to delete as much as I can, but some of my videos just get a lot of comments and then it just gets out of control, or, you know, life gets busy and I don't delete as much as I need to. But today I'm going to talk about, even after 14 years of living on the continent of Africa, as challenging and up and down as it can be, and I will be the first to say it is not a cakewalk, I still refuse and I try my best not to get into diaspora wars. The first reason is my own genetic background. My mother's side is from New York City, from Brooklyn, New York, but they actually immigrated to New York City starting in the early 1900s. My father's side is actually from the South, from rural North Carolina, a little town called Greenville. So my dad grew up very, very Southern, you know, that Southern Black culture in America. My kids, I have, like I said, 2 kids and one that'll be here in about 2 months. My children have all of that genetic background, plus they are Namibian because that's my husband's nationality. So my kids, my own background, I cannot afford, my husband is Namibian, I cannot afford to get bogged down in conversations where we are disparaging other parts of the African diaspora, because that would be speaking against myself, that would be speaking against my kids, that would be speaking against my husband. And my husband and I have been married since 2014, and somehow these issues really, we haven't had nasty conversations between each other about each other's backgrounds. So that's one reason why I just cannot afford to get into diaspora wars, because it would be like shooting myself in the foot. Another reason why I do not engage in diaspora wars is because too often the commentary is lumping one group of Black people into one huge stereotype. For example, someone saying, oh, like those Africans, da 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 da, or Black Americans, they don't know this, that, and the other, or Jamaicans, this, that. I don't understand the concept of there being a gazillion and one people that live on the continent of Africa, for example, and actually taking the time to sit down and make nasty comments about Africa. That is a huge generalization. There are nice people here, there are not so nice people here, just like everywhere else in the world. So I think it would be absolutely ridiculous of me to talk about a whole continent of people, or a whole country of people, like Namibians, for example, or a whole tribe of people, for example, like my husband's tribe. I think it would be absolutely ridiculous for me to talk about groups of large swaths of people of African descent just based off a negative experience with 1 or 5 or 10 or one town. I just think it doesn't make any sense. Like logically, how can I judge a whole population of people or a whole continent of people based off of certain negative experiences. And don't get me wrong, there are times where I do go through challenging situations, for example, with Namibians where I live. There have been times, because some of you may not know, but at one point I did spend some time living in Barbados as an adult. There have been times where I've brushed up against Bajans, but that to me still wasn't enough for me to just throw them all away. And I think the same should go vice versa. We don't need to throw Black Americans away based off of maybe something that some of us may say on the internet. The reality is that I feel like most people here are just minding their business, and they have been pretty friendly to me despite the vast cultural differences that I do present. I have learned, do not lump all Namibians into one group. They are as varied as my culture of Black Americans are. And there are some Namibians here that have sometimes got on my nerves. And there are also Namibians here that have had my back in ways that I can't even express, you know, helping with my homesickness, helping with me through my pregnancy. If you watch this video, you'll see that I have had some really difficult pregnancies. And just earlier this year, I was really going through it. And there are some Namibians here that when I say they helped me out with my son, getting him to and from school, they really helped me out, really had my back. They were understanding. My in-laws as well. My mother-in-law she's like a sage elder, just the amount of wisdom that she has and the amount of patience and welcoming that she has always shown me despite our vast cultural differences. There's no way that I can lump all of Namibia into one negative stereotype just because of maybe a negative interaction that I had with someone else that's a Namibian. It just doesn't make sense to me. Another reason why I just can't afford to get involved in diaspora wars is because I truly feel like it does nothing for us as people of African descent. Diaspora wars, generally the conversations are counterproductive. We are very busy bashing other Black people while the oppressor gets to get off the hook. How is speaking nastily about another group of Black people doing anything for us? Like what is the outcome? It's not positive. It's not productive. I have seen here in Namibia, I've always been amazed by the similarities just in terms of even Namibian culture. Namibia is all the way at the bottom of Africa, but I have always been amazed at the similarities that I see all the way here in Namibia culturally when I compare it to Black Americans. There are a lot of similarities, no matter how far Black people may be removed from each other due to the slave trade, due to geography. There is something in us that it never goes away. We always have this kinship, and you see it in the local barbershops here. You know, it's the same culture in the hair salons. It's the same culture in the hair care, in the culture of just sitting outside and talking. You see so many similarities just in our relaxedness, in our warmth, in our welcomingness. You see it continually. Why spend time chopping each other down when we could spend time building each other up? Another thing that I've observed globally, Black people are going through it. All around the world, pretty much all Black countries, we are facing the same demon. And so I see other groups of Black people as my kin. I don't see other groups of Black people as my enemy because I can see the common enemy that we all collectively together as a unit face. So I have always chosen to promote unity as best as I can and not promote anything that tears down any other group of people. And to be honest, I feel like it's pretty irresponsible and selfish and short-sighted to use a platform or to get on the internet and just sort of spread and espouse commentary that tears down another group of Black people. I really truly feel like in 2024, if you have a platform, if you have a camera, we have a responsibility to try to bring the diaspora together. Now, that's not to say that we should ignore the cultural snags. The reality is Black people who were not raised on the continent of Africa due to the slave trade or whatever reasons, there is a huge getting to know each otherness that has to happen. And in that process, there are going to be sometimes offensive statements, ignorant statements, because we just don't know each other. But I feel like we have to have grace and patience throughout that process. You cannot expect it to be seamless or always so nice and rosy. It's going to be a bit bumpy. But the main thing is just to have patience and grace as we get to know each other. But if the first thing you do is just automatically go from 0 to 360 bash mode, it to me is just defeats the purpose. Are you just interested in hurling insults, or do you really want to have some productive dialogue? Another reason why I refuse to participate in diaspora wars is just simply out of respect for my African ancestors. There is no way that I, as a Black American, could disparage the continent of Africa. There is no way that I could talk nastily about African culture, as different as it could be, on a public platform. I feel like that is the ultimate disrespect to the people that I came from, my West African ancestors that came up to America through bondage. I'm not going to disrespect them. They are a part of me, and they will always be a part of my DNA. The slave trade did not happen that long ago, for starters. I mean, my great-grandmother's grandmother, I believe, was born into slavery. I will double check on that and put in a picture of her here. But I believe to slavery. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. And so probably her grandparents or her great-grandparents may have even been brought from Africa. The slave trade and my African ancestors, to me, are not that far removed in the grand scheme of history from myself today in 2024. I will always feel connected to my African ancestry no matter how much time passes. There is no insult about them that will be coming out of my mouth out of sheer respect for what they went through and for their culture. And what if it wasn't for what they went through and their spirit of survival, I would not be here today. And finally, I choose not to participate in diaspora wars because I believe in the power of Black unity over Black division. I have seen time and time again the beauty that comes from different parts of the African diaspora coming together, whether it's to work on a project, whether it's for a roundtable talk, whether it's coming to visit another Black country, and just quietly observing that interaction. There is so much power in us coming together and beauty in us coming together. And I really truly believe that there is a spiritual angle to it that too often just gets overlooked and replaced with nasty vitriol. In my opinion, as a unit, we have so much power when we come together. When I think about the 2020 protests, the uprising in the US after the George Floyd murder, and the way Black Americans came together from the North, from the South, from the East Coast to the West Coast. We came together, and it was a beautiful thing. The creativity that came out of it, the art that came out of it, the dialogue that came out of it, the message that was sent, the collective spiritual hug that we gave George Floyd's soul. There is so much power in Black people coming together, economically, spiritually, emotionally, and us just working together than tearing each other down. And of course, as you can see, other communities, other races, they work together and a lot comes out of it financially and economically, entrepreneurially. And we have so much power too. We're so influential. If only we could come together more often, I think we would be at the same level, if not higher, than other communities. So to close off, don't get me wrong. I understand that there will be difficult, uncomfortable conversations a lot of the time as the diaspora gets to reconnect, gets to connect. This is all still very fresh. There are a lot of divisions due to colonialism and the slave trade that still to this day leave Black people very fractured globally. But The main thing to me is to have patience and allow grace, and to be mindful of tone and not just run, like I said, straight into bash mode. That is the main thing. And I think with that, we can make magic. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Really, again, I will be moderating. I'm not going to publish any comments that are bashing any group of Black people. I refuse. I have stood on this for years, for over a decade. So don't waste your time with that. But I would love to see your uplifting and productive comments about how we can be more unified in the power that we have together as a unit, as opposed to being fractured and splintered.